Welcome back to the Corporate Burnouts podcast. We have another guest today.
Yay! Welcome, Angel.
Hello.
I love it. All right, so you guys are so lucky that you get to meet Angel Magasano. She is an incredible businesswoman who came from a sordid corporate past, and we can't wait to have you hear her story. So I'm just going to, we could have some small talk if you want, but I would rather just jump into this. I want to hear, Angel, your corporate story, what made you leave, what gave you the right to start your own business and just succeed like crazy.
Yeah. Uh, I've got all kinds of good, bad, and ugly stuff about the corporate world. My first job out of college, my first real job, I should say, out of college, worked for a small private company. And there were probably about 60 people who were on the sales and marketing team and about another 200 who were in manufacturing. And we worked in the beverage industry, which is a very sexy, fun, fast-moving industry. Our biggest clients were Coke and Pepsi, very competitive against one another, lots of confidentiality agreements it was a small family-owned company that had just bloomed into this multi-million dollar, international enterprise. But all of the people who were on the leadership team had kind of been there from the very beginning of the establishment. They had been there 10, 15, 20 years. And it was very much an old boys club, very much an old boys club. And as a young woman in my mid 20s, I had a rude awakening, I think, to what the corporate world meant for me, because I definitely was put into a box as a woman, a blonde woman, for heaven's sakes. And even though I was super qualified to take a sales territory, they would not allow me to do so because I was a woman in my 20s. They said those words out loud. I would not be allowed to travel to my territory by myself because I was a woman. And
You're trying to make me mad really early on in this podcast.
So I just, they sent a chaperone with me. So they sent a man with me.
No, they didn't.
Oh,
yeah.
Angel.
Oh, yes, they did. Oh, yes, they did. And at one of these
down, I can't.
at one of these meetings, so I had built this relationship. I had finally gotten into a really high executive with one of the beverage companies they were working on launching a new product, and our company did secondary merchandising equipment for convenience stores. So any secondary placement that this new product was going to have in the marketplace, we were tasked with designing and marketing and selling. And so we went to this beautiful dinner in Dallas. And when my chaperone got up and left to go to the bathroom, my potential client said, I'd love to see you later with nothing but your shirt on. And
you wanted your chaperone to come back all of a sudden. I can only imagine.
Kind of in a moment, I was a little bit happy that I did have muscle behind me, but also I felt so insulted, and I just didn't even know how to move forward after that, And that was the same company that I worked for, that I was sitting in the conference room, and someone in sales management took my hand and put it on his penis in the conference room. And listen to me, this was before 9/11, right? So end of the 90s, early 2000s. I was young. I was being groomed that this is what you go through. If you're going to you climb the ladder in the corporate workplace, this is what you go through. If my daughter would encounter anything like that, I would be so disappointed if she didn't walk straight out that door. But I stayed at that business for 9 years. I stayed there for 9 years. And I feel like I suffer some trauma from that today, but that's a story.
Yeah, you have
I would imagine.
And again, that is how things used to be, right? In a lot of ways, and probably still are in some places. HR and Me Too and all of those things have helped that along
They
a
have
little
helped a
bit.
Yeah,
little bit.
because it was acceptable at the time. It was accepted.
It was.
To
And
your point, you were groomed to accept that behavior. Like
yes.
you were prepped and warned, "Well, this is part of
And
doing
they
business
knew
and you're a woman,
they knew
so
it was
And
going to happen
you
because,
want to
and
move
that's
up
why they
so
there.
sent
inappropriate.
you, yeah, they knew it was going to happen. So they sent you a chaperone.
Mhm.
And, whenever you first said chaperone, I went, ugh. Like they
Yes, I
think
was
that
pissed about it, and then I was like,
women
well,
can't
thank God they
handle it.
did.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, that is wild. Okay,
Yeah,
keep going.
I think that too, the other piece of trauma in a situation like that is that the women that came before me did not protect me, right? Because it's so
Mhm.
dog eat dog, and they're still trying to climb up. And now there's jealousy in the workplace because young 20-year-old blonde is getting abused now, where I used to be getting abused, and where is my place in the corporate world now? Just so
That,
terrible.
and I feel like for whatever reason, sometimes women, in the worst of ways, sometimes women want other women to have to endure what they went through to get to where I got to. If I had to go through that to get to where I'm at, then so do you. And I
Yeah.
think that is just a garbage mentality.
It is. I
It's
feel like it's a
horrid.
very old school mentality. I feel
Hmm.
like the attitude really has shifted. I take pride in thinking that my generation has helped to shift a lot of that because the ladies that came up ahead of me were not
Mhm.
kind. And certainly, I would not want, well, it kind of is the basis for why I do what I do, right? There's room at the table for every woman, and there's no reason to be competitive with these women. Like there's a place for everybody. But I did leave that job eventually after 9 years and took the leap to another corporation, which was an big international corporation. It was not privately owned. It was big international. It was run out of Amsterdam. There was a home base here in the Missouri area. And that was also dog eat dog because that was moving. It was in the publishing industry. It was moving a lot of money. It was moving very quickly. Our client base was the medical industry, so we were crafting textbooks for students that were coming up in the medical industry. And so lots of big competition, and I was on a very powerful marketing team. And I was the only woman on that team that was not only married but had children at home. So I had a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old at home at the time. And I'll tell you what, there was not a person in that company that had any patience or tolerance for the fact that I had just traveled for 6 days and returned home on Sunday afternoon and needed to be at the Monday morning 7 a.m. sales meeting. And heaven forbid my little baby got sick at school because, I'd have other, mostly women, chattering around the office. Must be nice to, have extra
Hmm.
time off because your kid is sick. And it was tough, right? It was tough because I
It's
worked.
not time off when your kid is sick. Now you have a different job.
Yeah, I feel like those ladies probably once they evolved through my journey, when they were married and had children of their own, they had a different understanding. But
Yeah.
as young women who were ambitious and climbing the scale, they were ready to walk straight over me to get to a
Hmm.
higher place. And one of the ways to walk over me was to exploit the fact that I had children and I wasn't in the office on Saturdays because I was at home with the kids. And it was really also abusive.
Yeah.
So condescending to act like being a mother is something that's going to hold you back.
hmm
Yeah, and
And
it was
why would
just a
anyone be in the office on Saturdays? Like that in itself is just like, let's have some work-life balance here.
living in a culture at that time. Again, it was about 2000. Well, it was about 2005 because I left that job in 2005. But it still was a culture pretty much of you work, you work, you work, and if you're a woman, you work twice as hard as a man.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you were not taken seriously. And I know a lot of that still exists today, but I feel like it was even more expected then. It didn't. There was no culture of work smarter, not harder. It was work, 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 work. Show us how much you're working. We need to see how much you're working. You're not working unless we see it. And that was really tough. And I left that job because a series of events happened. It started with a telephone call from my son's kindergarten teacher who said this child is failing because he's being dropped off at daycare at 6 in the morning. They're feeding him breakfast. They're transporting him to kindergarten where he's being fed lunch. He's being transported back there where he's eating dinner, where he's hoping a parent will come and pick him up by 6:30 so that he can go home and go to bed. And that hit home because I have a mama's boy and he was failing and he was turning angry and he was 5. He was a 5-year-old child. And following that, they had my daughter, who was 4, got sick. She was ill. And of course, she got sick, and I had to be out of the office, and they couldn't diagnose what her problem was. They just didn't know. It took them 2 weeks to figure out that she had contracted mononucleosis. She had mono as a 4-year-old,
That's
and
crazy.
it had
That's pretty
manifested
rare, right?
very,
Yeah.
that's a teenager's disease,
Yeah.
Hmm.
but it had manifested itself in her spleen, and her spleen had become enlarged to 4 times its regular size. And they needed this child to be on 6 weeks of bed rest, which I don't know about you, but I don't know how you put a 4-year-old on bed rest. A sick 4-year-old on bed rest is great until
Like,
she
did
feels
you have to
better.
sedate her for that?
Well,
Because
at
how
first
do
she
you
was
keep a
ill.
four-year-old in the
Once she
bed?
started feeling better, it was difficult. She had to be managed, right? And she had to
Yeah.
very carefully manage that she wasn't running around and doing all the things so that she could further damage her body. Fast forward to, I don't know, a month later, maybe I was on a sales trip and I had an emergent experience on a plane where this plane was going down. Like I was sitting in the
Oh my
seat reading
God.
my Woman's Day magazine about my activities that I was going to do with my kids and how I was going to make little butterflies out of Ziploc bags that had carrot sticks in one side and, ranch dip in the other. Um, and this plane was having a mechanical failure. And it upset me so much that I decided, okay, 1, 2, 3 strikes, I'm out. My
Yeah.
my home life was failing, my marriage was failing. I'm seeing my children and my husband as an inconvenience. And we just made a decision, my ex-husband and I, that I am going to just cold turkey quit this job to be a stay-at-home mom and be with these kids and raise these children because it is not worth the emotional toll that it's taking on me to
And
have
the entire family,
yeah,
obviously.
and the entire family. My daughter is ill, my son is failing, and it's not worth it. The money is not worth it. And I can tell you, it was very difficult to go from this, this kind of money to this kind of money, right? Zero money.
Hmm.
So that was tough. That was a tough transition. But when I felt that was necessary and good for my own mental health and the mental health of my children.
Wow. So, a couple of things. So, we traveled for work too, and we were on planes a lot. And there were a couple of things that happened, not to that extent where it was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had other things that went into that decision, but there were some flights that I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I putting myself through this? Because it would drop 500 feet, or it would, you know what I mean? Like the things
Yeah.
that you'd get too close to a storm, and you're like, why am I putting my life at risk for this? And it really probably wasn't even that risky, but it was scary, and it made
Yeah,
me
it is
anxious. Hmm.
very
I
scary.
remember being in a plane about to take off, and we got stopped on the runway and had to wait 30 minutes for the tornadoes to pass through. And
Okay,
I'm
so we
like,
were
we
all
are in a
leaving the same
tin
place.
can. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that, but you're right.
Hmm.
We were all
Yeah.
together, headed to or from a team meeting. I don't remember,
Hmm.
but it was wild. Like, what are we doing? Why are we like, is
Yeah,
this schedule
they're like,
so
put on your
important?
seatbelts, and it's like, we're stopped. Why do we need our seatbelts? And then we find out later that there were literal tornadoes going through DFW. That was
It was
crazy.
wild. And
Hmm.
then we just kept doing our jobs and kept getting on planes.
For years and years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for years, it's fine. No big
So
deal.
my other commentary, and I don't want to come off too feminist when I say this, but everything kind of fell on you. You had a career, your husband had a career, your
Mhm.
ex-husband had a career, and you were the one who stayed home when the kids were sick. You were the one who was feeling that pressure of I've got to fix something because my kids aren't thriving right now. And has that ever, I mean, obviously you want to be the person to take care of your kid, like I think that all moms feel that way, like I want to handle this. But was there ever a situation where you're like, can't you handle something and get the kids, so they can at least have
Yeah.
dinner with one parent?
Yeah, totally. And my ex-husband will kill me when he hears the story. But well, we're not married anymore,
Hmm.
I was about to
and
say, I'm sure my ex-husband doesn't like the stories I tell either, but I'm going to keep talking. Go right ahead, girl.
and
It's your truth.
honestly, my ex-husband and I have a really great relationship. So, really great relationship, and I'm so grateful for all the time that we had together. But
Hmm.
there was a time when I was away for a week in August, and I had to be away where, I don't know, I was maybe in Philadelphia, I think, for a national sales meeting. And when I got home after being gone for 6 days, my kids were filthy. They were filthy. They had dirt under their nails. They had dirt on their bodies.
Hmm.
And I'm like, when's the last time you gave these kids a bath? He's like, well, didn't you give them a bath before you left?
Shut up.
Oh
Six
my God,
days
for a
ago, and it's
week
the middle of August, and they're 5 and 4 years old. Like
playing
they're not digging
outside,
for
making mud
worms,
pies, just living in the
Mm-mm.
dirt.
just living in the dirt, and my son's like, Daddy, let us sleep on the couch. I'm like, "Oh, God, okay. I mean, everybody
So,
survived that, but it
Yes.
was,
so you knew
um,
that wasn't going to be structured to have him step in and
yeah,
Yeah.
do
and
those
I was,
things.
he and I both were raised in families in the 70s and 80s where, you know, dad went to work, mom
Mhm.
stayed home with the kids, mom made the dinner. Like I was really
Hmm.
raised to get married, have children, have a home, and live a happy life. The
Hmm.
end. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's just I don't fault my parents for that. That's the way I was raised. And I decided after I went through check, check, check and did all those things, I think that I want more for myself.
Yeah. You were
And it's okay to
ambitious,
follow
right?
that.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. It was great. And those years were great. And my children are great. And they're
Hmm.
the best things that have ever happened to me. And they're productive members of society today.
Hmm.
But, I also went through um, struggling with drinking too much, losing my own identity, depression, going through divorce, all of those things that kind of tumble through when you're trying to find yourself after you've already committed yourself to one lane in life.
Hmm.
I feel like you and I have lived very different but very similar lives. Like a lot of the things that you're saying are speaking to me like, oh, me too. Oh
It,
yeah,
it
well, there's
it'd
me
be
too.
interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see how many American women have that same, journey,
Yeah.
that same trajectory.
Hmm.
Absolutely. The loss of your identity in motherhood, but also in like work and then coming out of that corporate experience, how your identity is just wrapped up in all the things that you do. The cycles of depression, the meanness of my inner voice
Oh
by
yeah,
itself, like that's some traumatic stuff right
that's
there.
evil.
But yeah, and then the guilt of motherhood, the guilt will eat you alive. And I think that working in corporate made that like so exacerbated for me that I felt guilty if I wasn't at work, but I also felt guilty if I wasn't with the kids. So it was like it didn't matter
It
what
didn't
I
matter,
did.
right?
I was dealing with a tremendous amount of guilt at all times, and it was debilitating.
Yeah, no, I can directly relate to that. I can directly relate to that. That having being in a space where you're not present no matter where you are.
Yes, that's really how I felt 98% of the time. It didn't matter where I wasn't fully there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about work-life balance because it's something that has been a struggle for both of us. And I
Mhm.
think everyone at some point, like you either focus too hard in one direction or the other, and then you fail somewhere or you feel like you're failing somewhere.
Mhm.
And that is, um, I'm sure I don't have kids, but a lot worse as a mom, right? Um, but you decided to get off the road and you stayed home. So how long were you just at home before you decided, okay, I can do this on my terms and still have my successful career, but not under the thumb of corporate?
Yeah, I think that happened over the course of time. I think the first thing I did as a stay-at-home mom is I remembered when I was a kid, my mother did something that she really enjoyed, and she took cake decorating classes, and she would do it every Wednesday night, and she'd go with her girlfriends, and she'd hire Levon to come down and babysit us, which was great because we loved Levon. And
Mhm.
then she would always bring home like a little chocolate cake that was decorated, and we would eat it. So I thought, all right, I am going to do that because I'm a creative cat and I love art and I need some type of creative outlet. And now that I'm not working, I'll at least plan big parties for my kids and big gatherings. We'll be the house. Like we'll be that we had a big house. We'll be the place. We lived in a cul-de-sac. There were 23 kids that lived in the cul-de-sac. Like we'll be the
Wow.
entertainment space. And so I'm going to take some courses so that I can learn how to make some cakes and, be the sweets lady.
Mhm.
And so I did that, and I was making cakes, and I was doing some things for friends and some of the PTA moms. And I had a lady call me, and she said, "I would like you to make my son's birthday cake, and I am going to pay you to do it." And I'm like, okay. I'm going to take your money. And that's what really started to spark the whole idea that, you know what? I can monetize this. I can balance being at home and raising my children and have this hobby business and bring in the extra money that I want to fund my annual trip to Chicago or whatever, what's going to be. I'm going to be able to earn an extra $20,000 a year to just blow on whatever.
Mhm.
And so that's what I started to do. And I started to make cakes and make more cakes. And I started making big wedding cakes. And this was sort of during the time when the Ace of Cakes was brand new on Food Network and the Cake
I
Boss was
loved that.
brand new on
Yeah.
TLC. The
Hmm.
Duff is he's one day I'm going to meet Duff because I've just put it out in the universe and it's just going to happen.
All right. I love it.
But so fast forward after about 4 years, I was making 400 cakes a year, like
Wow.
11 cakes a week.
Yeah.
And I was really good at the skill, but I didn't know the business behind running the business. I had no idea how to run the business, how to make enough money, how to forecast, because what I really aspired to do was to be in a bakery situation, but not a bakery that was open to the public, a by appointment only custom cake design studio for brides and special occasions and big fun stuff like that. I didn't know how to do it. So I just started talking with some other ladies through my own network that I knew were either had home businesses or they had businesses outside the home, chiropractors, financial advisors, women like that, and asked them like, can we start to commune so that we can share best practices? I've got some marketing experience. Facebook is brand new. I've already figured that out. We can talk about that, which by the way, Mandy, now I wouldn't even be able to get my way out of a brown bag when it comes to Facebook. But at the time, it was brand new and I could do it. They didn't even have business pages at the time.
Hmm.
And so that's how I started this new little hobby business, Little Black Book, which was a community for women who were aspiring entrepreneurs or new in business. And it was a place for us to be um, open with one another and share best practices, really, because I knew something that somebody else didn't know, and they knew something that I didn't know. So we were going to share that so that we could all grow together. And so that's how Little Black Book got started so many years ago.
I love
And
that. And what was the year that Little Black
it
Book started?
started it started in 2012. I think I probably started in 2011 communing with women, and
Hmm.
then we established an LLC and had our very first event in 2012.
Okay.
And so that's where his story is right now.
Yeah, I love that. I love the, getting together to figure it out together, right? We're not gatekeeping here. We are sharing all of the ideas. We're sharing all of the things that we already failed at and what we did to fix it. And someone saying, "Well, but I did this," and you're like, "Oh, that's a good idea. I have to do
Right.
that." Like that's incredible because even if I went to business school in 2001. I so much has changed. Like you wouldn't, if I was a marketing major, which I wasn't,
Yeah, me
uh,
either.
it wouldn't be even, I mean, there are the principles of marketing and things that stay the same. But I mean, they weren't building websites like they do now in that time.
Yeah.
There was no social media. There was probably not email marketing yet. There was email by then. But it's like they wouldn't have been best practices, right?
Right.
So
Right.
everyone's trying to come up with together how they can make this business thing work. And I mean, that's my favorite. Share and
Yeah,
grow
the
together.
education of marketing in general has evolved so much over the last 10, 20, 30 years for sure. So even if we had gone and gotten that degree 20 years ago, what we learned then would not be what we're applying now. So I find that really kind of profound, Mandy, that you're like, what's it even worth? Like this community of people that have each other's back is far more powerful than an outdated education.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, yeah, 'cause my marketing degree, I graduated from college 33 years ago at this point.
Hmm.
So the same, the marketing principles are there, but the whole world has turned upside down since
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, it's all digital, right? And it's not to say that you can't do the same things, that you can't, networking is a lot the same that it was 33 years ago, right? So there are things like that, but so much of the other ways that you use to market a
Yeah.
business are
The,
so different.
So different.
And that's just talking about the marketing of it. There's also all of the things that you have to do to get your business going. And I we'll talk more about Little Black Book here in a little while because I need people to understand how empowering it is to be a part of a group with over 500 women who have your back. That's incredible how much it's grown. Okay, so Angel, we talked about that you started with cakes and made that into a business and then started Little Black Book. But tell us about all the businesses because that's not it, right?
Right.
That's not where it ends. So tell us about your businesses. We'd love to hear everything about it.
Little Black Book started as a local grassroots community of women, right? Just sharing best practices and communing and networking. And so that business it struggled for the longest time. And all the talk that we have during our discussion is going to be mainly about how that business struggled to scale. But currently, the community piece of Little Black Book Women in Business services women in 15 municipalities across Northeast Missouri and Southern Illinois. And as we grow
wow.
into 2026, we'll be growing west toward Kansas City and Denver and east into Indianapolis and Columbus, Ohio. So super fun for the community because there's just so much value in having a community of women that will share best practices with you and will help elevate you along your way. But the second company that we just launched in 2023 is Little Black Book Publishing Company. And that has just been a real joy because it is bringing the dream of authorship to women, and women are having a voice and we're able to share their story. And that whole process really has elevated my own mindset because as you move forward as an entrepreneur, having a published work to your credibility will help you get bigger gigs. If you are a speaker, if you are a consultant, if you can cite that you are a published author and that's part of your marketing mix, then you have a leg up over some of the other people who may be vying for the same piece of business. But outside of the professional books that we publish, we've also been publishing children's books. We have been publishing novels. We'll publish a smut book. We are not afraid of our sexuality, but it all still falls under the mission of supporting the woman and supporting the woman in business and leadership, right? And making sure that she has access to all of the pieces that she can take advantage of to move herself forward into who she hopes to become. And speaking of that, in 2023, I got a 501c3 nonprofit opened that will help bridge the gap between conventional funding of your business and institutional funding of your business. Because that is one of the biggest problems that I hear consistently from women who are in business. Where is the money? How do I get funding? I can't get funding. My business is tied to my personal credit. My personal credit sucks. I'm not in a position in life to mortgage my house or sell my house and put everything on the line to dump into my business. But that doesn't mean that I don't still believe in my business and I've plateaued and I can't scale. How can I get money that is outside of a traditional line of credit? So that foundation is will gift grants to qualified women in business for the scaling of their business. So
You just gave the first one
we
as
That's
just
really
we
great.
just gave we just gave our first grant away to a medical esthetician, and it's amazing because the grant that we have provided for her is going to purchase a new CRM for her business, which she's in the medical industry. That CRM is not cheap, and the first 3 months of the management of that CRM. So I think it's a leg up for her, and we're going to see a big success in the growth in her business because of that money that we were able to provide to her.
Well, that's really exciting. It sounds like a lot of your business experience, at least entrepreneurship wise, has been in service to other people and other businesses. So I'm really excited to hear about your advice and mistakes that you've made along the way and learned from to
Well,
get to where you're at right
I
now.
have made them all. I am a true Hufflepuff at heart, and I have made all of the mistakes and happy to share them.
Well, and Angel probably won't tell you this, but she is the most support, and you can tell by everything that she's said and what her businesses do. But there's nobody who builds up women and figures out how to prop up women better than Angel. And being a part
Thank
of
you.
Little Black Book over the last, I guess it's almost a year and a half now, is it feels good there. It feels
Oh, thank you.
everybody, it's top down, right? When the owner, when the founder, the leader makes a big deal about elevating women, everyone follows suit, right? You can't be a mean girl here because that's not
No.
acceptable, you know?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And we don't just not mean girl. We go hard for the other women here
Mhm.
and
Indeed.
we educate each other and we lean on each other and we send business to women first and I love everything about it. And me and Mandy will look through our leads sheet for the year and it's like LBB, LBB, LBB,
Oh,
and
good.
some of them are other members who are needing a website or social media, and I love that. But that's not even my goal, right? My goal is to become partners with these women so
Right.
that when somebody asks them about a website or that they send them to us and then vice
Mhm.
versa, send them everything. And I don't think that people understand that completely about
Right.
networking.
Some people don't understand the sell through, but
Hmm.
those are the people that we will pull up.
Hmm. Absolutely. So,
Yeah, we
but
need a whole episode about networking for
hmm
sure, and I'm excited about that one too.
yeah,
Um,
it's
there's
necessary.
power in it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So much power in it. But I would love to really dig into your leaving corporate or a job where you work for someone else and you are starting your own thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Whether it's an at-home business or it's a brick and mortar or it's whatever. What do you need to do to be ready for that? Because so many people, including myself, just leap and they're like, we'll
Right.
figure it out. And
Well, and I just leaped or
mhm,
left,
yep.
back then,
Yeah.
right? I had very much a just do it type of attitude. Like,
Hmm.
I'm just going to do it. And if it doesn't work, I'm just going to change it. And there's a lot of charm in that because that is part of the entrepreneurial spirit. As an entrepreneur, you get to make the rules. There's no glass ceiling in entrepreneurship. You get to make the rules, you get to change them. Unless you're in an industry that requires compliance, you have the freedom to make those rules the way you want to make the rules. But I made a lot of mistakes at the very beginning because I did not, first of all, my mindset was not correct. So having a correct mindset is the very first thing you need to have. And so many people have passion. They're like, I'm going to do it. I can do it better than my boss did it. I'm going to just take the leap and do it. But they come with it. What comes with that is a sense of, I'm going to be rich and I'm going to have all this freedom of time. I can work
And it's going to be easy.
and it's going to be
Yeah.
easy. I can work whenever I want, wherever I want. I saw Mandy working from the beach, so she can do it. I can do it. And I think that what people don't understand is when you when you first start and you have all of this freedom of time, you're like, what the hell do I do with all this time? Right? I don't know how to structure my day. And people do not show up for themselves the way they would have shown up for a manager in the corporate world.
Mhm.
What I've seen in that is that when you can work anytime and anywhere, and you have the freedom of flexibility in that, is that a lot of times anytime and anywhere means no time and nowhere. Like, so
or all
setting
the
those
time and
boundaries and
all
structure, or yeah,
yeah,
or the other side, right? Like
right.
I never ever stop, or I don't make myself do it. And neither
Correct.
side is going to lead to the success that you're talking about.
That's right. But you're right, because more often than not, people just end up not working, not doing it, right? Because
Hmm.
one day turns into the next, that turns into the next. But they're like, I'm an entrepreneur. If I want to go meet my girlfriend at the winery for lunch today because it's 75 degrees and it's the first nice day in St. Louis that there's been all year, I'm going to do that because I can do whatever I had scheduled today, tomorrow. And then tomorrow you're like, oh gosh, I'm a little hungover from that wine lunch that turned into, a bottle of wine at dinner. And
Hmm.
I don't want to work today because I'm hungover, but I'm an entrepreneur, so I can do that. And I'll do whatever needs to happen tomorrow. And then it just starts to the next day and the next day and the next day. And then you don't have a scheduled routine. You don't have a system in place to have that routine. And you start to flail because you don't have any type of definition of what you're doing. That your mindset's not correct because you're not
Hmm.
showing up for yourself the way you would have shown up for somebody else.
I
And
like I like the way that you put that. You've said that a couple of times now, having the correct mindset. Can you define that a little bit more clearly? Like what should that mindset actually look like?
we need to show up as an owner. When you go into business for yourself, you can't come at it and be timid. One of the mistakes I see people do during networking, you can always spot a freshman networker when they stand up and the first thing they say is, I'm so nervous, and here's my name, and here's what I do, and blah, 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 whatever.
Uh-huh.
If you don't approach your business and the representation of your business with confidence as the owner, like, I'm here, the ink that comes out of my pen on this check is good.
Mhm.
And I am showing, when I show up for myself, it means I understand what my business plan is and I understand what it's going to take me to get there. And if I don't do these things, I won't get there and I'll no longer be in business. And then I'm going to have to go back to work.
Yeah, so it's real and it's raw and it's putting it out there with a plan. I think that's one of the most important things that you just said. So many people have this grand idea of starting a business or um, sometimes even in their day job, like normal corporate life, that, they have this vision, but then they don't have the application. And
Right.
it's because you can't apply a plan if you don't create a plan to begin with. And
Mhm.
that structure is like the missing link in a lot of flailing businesses.
Yeah. That's where a just do it attitude bites you in the butt.
Hmm.
Because when you just do it the way I did, and you don't have a plan, and you don't have the financial piece is the biggest piece, and we can talk about that in a minute. But then you spend time walking down this path, doing all the things, trying to market yourself, but you're not sure who you're marketing to or why you're doing what you're doing. And then it just creates a sense of, all right, I'm working, working, working all of the time. My bank account does not show any results from all of the work that I'm doing.
Hmm.
And now I'm getting bitter about it. Now I'm
Yeah.
starting to get frustrated, and that's leading to bitterness. And so just do it rides on the passion, but you need to throw that passion into actually sitting down and typing up what the business plan is going to be so that you don't flail 2 months from now and lose your passion and
Hmm.
shift into burnout.
Yeah, or just start to get, like you said, bitter. I never really thought about this, but I'm going to tell a story about a networking meeting that I was in a few years ago. And this person didn't have a good business plan. They were by the seat of their pants, whatever, and they had a little bit of success and then not as much success. And they let it out on everyone at this meeting. No one supports me here. Nobody. And it's like, no, you can never get to that spot
Right.
because you earn, first of all, support from others. And you're the only one who can make your business work. It's not
Yeah.
anyone else's responsibility, right?
Right.
And instead of looking in and going, what can I do different? What kind of plans do I need to have in place? What kind of changes do I need to make to my systems or whatever it is? Because this is not, I shouldn't be taking this out on other people and blaming them, but that just popped back into my head. I'm like, he was just so bitter that
Yeah.
it wasn't working because it wasn't exactly right, you know. And
Yeah,
then
and you can't. I think that when people opt into networking groups, they feel like all of a sudden I've got 40 new clients. So people even
oh,
approach that
mm-mm,
piece of the marketing mix incorrectly,
mm-hmm,
right? And you know that. I know you've written about it and spoken about it, but those are people if they don't have their client even identified, right? They don't have their ideal client defined. If they feel like they're going to opt into this group at the Chamber of Commerce or wherever this group is, and all of a sudden they have 100 new customers, that is not how business works.
no, it's not. So mindset is a big thing. Knowing what you want your business to be, right? All of those
Right.
things important. But you just said knowing who your customer or client is. Can you explain how you figure that out?
Yeah, well, you have to really think about it. You
Hmm.
have to go through a visualization process almost, what is this person, male, female? How old is this person? How much money does this person make? What does this person do with their money and their free time? You know what I mean? Are you selling to somebody who shops at Walmart on the weekends because they need the lowest discounted price? Or are you targeting a luxury client who is only going to shop at Nordstrom and they're only
Yeah.
doing, they're vacationing in Paris? You have to understand who it is that you are marketing to. And I know we've seen it a lot of times, and I'll use an esthetician as a good solid example where they'll come in and say, my client is anybody with skin. Bullshit.
Hmm.
That's the clear sign of somebody who is a total freshman and doesn't understand their own business. That they're probably targeting somebody who, let's talk about somebody that I know personally. She's an esthetician and she specializes in medical tattooing, right? So she's looking for people who have had tattoos that they need removed. She's looking for people who have been victims of sex trafficking, who have been branded with tattoos that she can get removed, people who have scars from cutting when they were a teenager that they want to have removed because they feel shame over it. Those are very specific types of people that you're only
Hmm.
going to find
Yeah.
in a specific type of place. It's not anybody with skin. It is very specific and what she's dialed down her ideal client to. So anybody who has a business has got to dial down to who that ideal client is.
Yeah, and a lot of times people are like, you have to niche down and blah blah blah, and it's like you don't have to. So we obviously do marketing, um, and we have niched down to small businesses and solopreneurs. I don't know that we'll ever go down to we just are a marketing firm for realtors, although we like to work with them. Um, uh, it does help your business to find a very specific client, but you we know that we don't want to work with big businesses. We know that we want to work with budget conscious small businesses, and we've built our business around that, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
We can go further into the avatar of our potential client of that we love to work with women, but we have found that our kind of average client is a male owned business. They don't want to do social media. They're like, I hate that, but I know that I have to have it. So just go do it. Or the people who who want a website and they're just like, I can't give you any idea of what that should look like. Just go do it,
Those
right?
actually end up being our favorite people
Yeah.
to work with because the flip side of that is if you know exactly what you want, but you can't quite give me that vision, then I can't quite give you what you want. And then there's a lot of back and forth, and it's just not the same level of enjoyment in,
Right.
for you to get the product created that you're looking for and for me to actually do it. It's so weird. I hadn't thought about it like that, Mandy, but yeah, my ideal client is 40 to 60 male business owner who is ready to admit I am not the expert at X, Y, and Z. Can you help me? I'll do what you say.
Yep. And then you get to go and be so creative, right? Just from
Yeah.
Right.
whatever your brain comes up with. We do love that. But we have a lot of different clients, but that's probably our avatar right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it falls into that quadrant of low maintenance client with financially abundant, right?
Hmm.
So they don't fall into that quadrant of high maintenance client that is a cheapskate.
Hmm.
Those are the people
Yeah.
that we eliminate from our portfolio.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I love it. So they have to figure out their mindset and then they have to figure out their ideal client and narrow it down just a little bit. And then what's the next thing to get your
Well, they
business
have
started?
to understand their own products and services and how they're monetized.
Hmm.
So having well, let me start with the financial piece because I think that the financial piece is the biggest mistake that people make when they're starting a business. People
And I
get
think it's the biggest hurdle that people have in even
it
trying to
is, and
take the leap to begin with.
it's
Hmm.
the biggest excuse. I don't have the money for that. And you have to plan to have the money for that. You know, if you're going to take the leap from corporate into entrepreneurship, you really have got to squirrel away dollar bills because it is going to cost you money up front to get this thing going. Even if you're working in a space that you don't have overhead, it is still going to cost you money. Let me give you an example of one of the big mistakes I made, okay? Because I was that person who I did not have enough money for a bookkeeper. I didn't have enough money for a money person. And I've already told you I'm a creative. I'm a creative person. I'm not a money person. I'm also not driven by money. So money
Yeah.
does not drive me. I'm driven by words of affirmation. I'm driven by accomplishment. I'm driven by making an impact. The dollars don't drive me. So as I was going along and building the business and building this network of women and providing them with all of these opportunities to gather and there's luncheons and you buy a ticket for lunch and there's a conference and you buy a ticket for the conference and there's a gala and you buy a ticket for the gala and all of these things are ticketed events and it's all income that comes in and is part of the revenue stream. So when I got my books done at the end of one year in particular, the accountant said, we have a big problem here. You owe $20,000 in Missouri state taxes because all of these programs that you have been producing all year long require you to collect and pay sales tax on them. Well, I had not
And you
collected any
you didn't
sales
know that until
tax.
after the fact.
Did not know that.
Oh.
Oh,
So because I couldn't afford to hire a money person or a bookkeeper, it cost me $20,000 that I'm still paying off to this
Oh
day
God.
that you could
because I made
have,
that big
yeah, you
mistake.
could have had everyone pay and they would have never even noticed. It would have been
Right.
Yeah.
$2,
They would have paid
each.
their
Yeah.
$2
Hmm.
$2 at a time, and
Hmm.
it would have all accrued up, and it would have all been put into that tax and emergency checking account, and boom, at the end of the year, the taxes would have been paid, and it would not have been a problem. But because I made the excuse as an early entrepreneur, I don't have the money to hire a bookkeeper. I don't have the money to have somebody go through my QuickBooks and reconcile every. I don't have the money to make sure that my LLC is set up properly. I don't have the money, then it cost me so much more money
In the long run.
in the long
Hmm.
run.
So
So
really, it's like if you don't have the money to do those things, then you don't have the money to be in business.
that's right. When you say I can't afford a bookkeeper, when I hear somebody say I can't afford that, my immediate response is you cannot afford not to do
Not
this.
to do that.
This
Yeah.
should be the first person that you pay. This should be the first person that you spend your money on before you buy yourself a website. You got to DIY and limp your way through some of those things to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that the business is set up properly and it's monetized properly. Otherwise, you're just running a hobby. You're just running a
Mm-hmm.
hobby, and you've just told me without saying so that I don't need to take you seriously as a business owner or an entrepreneur because you may be here today, gone tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pay someone to do the money, right? I have done my own taxes on TurboTax for years with my W-2 in hand, and it's like
Yeah.
I owned a home and I had my W-2. How complicated could this be? But once you start to have income coming from so many different places and you
Mhm.
pay other people, like, my team, I pay them to do work, and
Thank you.
yeah, and I have expenses for this business. So there's lots of money going out everywhere, and I drive there. So there's mileage, and you know what I mean? Like, what if I had to try and put that all in TurboTax? I would be getting a call from the government in 3 months, and they're like, "You owe $100,000." When the accountant will be like,
Yeah.
"You only owe eight." Like, it's fine. You know
You
what I mean?
only owe $8.
Yeah,
Only,
or I was
only
gonna
away.
say 8,000. And the thing is that is still a lot of money, but it's not what they could come up with if I really screwed up my
Yeah.
taxes,
Right.
So that is the first thing that I spent money on besides my LLC. I spent money to have someone set that up correctly too, to make sure because it was just something I didn't know how to
Because
do.
if you don't know, you don't know. And
That's
if you
right.
don't know, you have no business
Hmm.
You know,
messing it
and
up for
that's
yourself.
Hmm.
such a good point because one of the other things that I would encourage anybody do who is taking the leap into entrepreneurship is join a join a course, join some type of business building course that you can either DIY yourself through or you can be mentored through.
Hmm.
Because if you're not investing in your own education about your own business and you don't know how every single aspect of that business works, you're just doing yourself a disservice. And again, you're going to throw yourself into hobby business. And if you don't want to be a hobby business, then you're going to walk the line of burnout because you don't know what you
Yeah.
don't know,
Hmm.
and that can be a place where people flounder for years. I floundered in I don't know what I don't know for probably 6 years. I lost time, I lost sleep, I didn't lose weight, unfortunately.
Same.
I lost tons of money.
Hmm.
I lost tons of
Yeah.
money because I didn't know I was spending money in the wrong place, on the wrong people, doing the wrong things because
Hmm.
I didn't follow somebody's advice at the very beginning. They're like, "Hey, take this business building retreat.
Hmm.
This will help you from the very beginning get your business set up completely with a complete business plan of action." And it's $6,000. And I'm like, "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you."
Hmm.
I didn't have a credit card that even had a $6,000 limit on it. There was no way
Yeah.
that was happening, right?
Hmm.
But again, the con of not doing that and not believing in myself enough to put money down and invest in myself in a course like that was that I spent 6 years flailing through, just flailing through.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
ROI on that $6,000 could have been incredible.
Incredible, incredible, and immediate.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild we pass on some of those things. Tell us how you feel about business coaches. Some people swear by like just have it all set up.
Yep.
Get yourself
I
a
think
coach.
everybody should have a mentor. I think that
Yeah.
every person in business should have some type of mentor. I feel like you need to be very picky about who that person is and
Hmm.
how they align with you, your business, your goals, your how they vibe with your personality. I think that when it comes to the word coach, I am a little bit skeptical. Like I'm looking for a consultant or a mentor.
Hmm.
I don't want to hire somebody who went through a 6 hour training
Yeah.
course and now they're a certified coach,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If I look at somebody who is a life coach who is living in their cousin's basement and driving for Instacart on the weekends,
Hmm.
that's not the life I aspire to, right? That's not
Hmm.
somebody
Yeah.
I'm going to spend money on. But if I have like my own business coach is a supreme entrepreneur. Like I have so much respect for her, and she understands different monetization and revenue streams and how to get yourself from industry to industry, but have it all relate under the same umbrella. And she's wonderful, and she's up on new trends all of the time. And so she is worth the money and the time for me to spend with her, for her to help me, to help her. She helps me guide through growth plans. And I think that every smart person should have somebody that they can lean on professionally, or even have a personal board of directors. You know, I have my own personal board of directors, and those are ladies who I respect in the business world, and they always have great ideas, and they're creative, and they help me grow all of the time. But they also tell me when I'm full of shit, right? They also say, you know what? Nope. You got to hold, slow your roll right there, because that is not a good idea. And you're going to lose money, or you're going to lose
Yeah.
market, whatever it is. So having those people in your life who can stand up to you and say, nope, that's not a good idea. You have to have that too.
Yeah, that's an amazing takeaway. We also believe in the board of directors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you probably have a lot of great ideas, right? I know that I do have great ideas. And then I also have ideas that are not all the way there. We talked about with Brie, we have ugly babies. And
Yeah.
and we need people to keep adding into that to make it pretty, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you know what?
To make
Maybe
it
put
fully
up for
formed.
adoption.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sometimes
Give it away.
yeah, sometimes it's somebody else's stroke of genius. Like you're trying to force something into your own portfolio that's
Yeah.
not your
That's not
zone of genius,
yours.
right? It should be somebody else's.
Yeah, no, that's smart. That's taking it a step further. Like, don't force anything into your business if it doesn't fit. That's great.
Hmm.
Well, and a lot of people do that too. Like I call that short order kitchen. You can't
Hmm.
be a short order kitchen, right? You can't be all things to all people. And if
Hmm.
somebody, I did that a lot when I was making cakes, and somebody would say, you know what I really want? I really want French macarons. That's what I really want. I don't.
I don't do those.
Right. At first, I'm like, sure, I can figure that out. And then I spend what? Hours researching how to do it, and
Hmm.
then waste 3 batches because I screwed them all up.
Because you don't know what you're doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I can't be
Yeah.
a short order kitchen. Like, I have to understand what my function and purpose is, and just stick to my lane.
That
Hmm.
is excellent advice because we have done the same thing. Mandy will be like, this person called and they were asking about this. And I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
get that all the
let's,
time. Like,
yeah,
hey, do you build apps? And I'm like,
Well, I could.
Andy, do you
yeah.
want to
Well, I
like
Well,
try to
could.
build
we're,
apps? She's like, no, we don't do that. We're on websites. And I'm like, all right, cool.
yeah, we're
Fine.
finally to that place though where I can say, Mandy, don't spend a whole day trying to see if we
Figure
can
this
do
out.
apps, and then maybe go into it further, and waste time. But before that, I mean, I have done so much crazy stuff for
Oh, me
people,
Hmm.
too. Oh, me.
like, and
We've thrown
truthfully,
it all at the wall
yeah,
for sure.
sometimes we like it and we keep it, right? So, like, we make Etsy stores. Someone asked us to do that, and we're like, I mean, we made our Etsy store, like, I'm
Yeah.
sure that
Yeah.
we
I
could.
mean, we can do it. Sure.
Yeah, and we ended up liking it, so we still do that sometimes. It's not on the menu, it's like
Yeah.
on the special menu. But there are some things that it's like, do you do ads? And we're like, well, yeah, we know how to do ads, but and we'll do it for some people. And then we're like, no, we hate doing that. Like, we
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't want to do that. And I used to take everything. I would figure it out, like I would YouTube it and I'm like, I will figure out how to do this. And it's great to be at a place that I don't need to do that now.
Right.
Hmm.
Well,
But
that could be, it could still be an income stream for you, Mandy, if you have an affiliate with another business who does that, right? If you're
yes.
an
Hmm.
affiliate for them, then they'll
Hmm.
pay you a referral fee or a commission fee to pass that business on to them.
Hmm. And I think that's part of the growth plan down the road is
Hmm.
is we'll start to collect people that work with us that we can say this goes through Essential Marketing Group, and you can do the work to make that app, or you can do the work
Yeah.
to create these ads or whatever. But for right now, yeah, we just pass the business.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
is
we
such
do
a good
on a
idea.
really small scale, though. We do have a few clients who we've networked to other businesses, but everything still funnels through Essential Marketing Group. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
we're already doing it on a really tiny
But it's
scale. But
fun. It's so fun. It's
yeah,
Yeah.
really fun when you get to the place where you understand And it's just really understanding. You can be in business for a year and have the understanding
Hmm.
that, all right, I am not a short order kitchen, but I am aligned with these four other businesses that
Hmm.
are kind of adjacent to what I do, and I'm going to funnel them. I'm going to funnel them business, and they're going to pay me a commission in return, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to do the business. I'm just referring it over, but there's an affiliate partnership there,
Hmm.
and that's a lot of fun, and it's another revenue income
Yeah,
stream.
it really is. So, are there any other steps to your starting a business that people cannot skip, in your
Find
opinion?
a community. You have to find a community. You
Hmm.
have to find a community where you fit in, where it feels right, where you feel free to share what it is that you're working on, what your challenges are, but also what your aspirations are without being looked down upon, right? You want to go into a community and say, you know what? I aspire to be fill in the blank. I aspire to be global with my new widget, and it's going to take over the world, and it's going to revolutionize the way everybody uses the bathroom. And you don't want anybody going, oh, that's nice. Good for you, honey. Right? You want to be supported in that. So you have to find a
Yeah.
community.
Hmm. I love that. And obviously that is what drove me. I am sure that the marketing plan that I had made before I started my business, like, here's how I think that I can grow this to be an income that will support my life. Um, I started networking and it changed everything. It it absolutely 100% changed everything, and I wouldn't have even, it wasn't on my list, Like, it wasn't on my marketing list, but became surrounded by people who wanted to help me succeed.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it coming at all. And now, I mean, 95% of business comes from either networking or past clients.
Yeah. Referral marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just incredible to me. I didn't, again, see it coming. So that
Well,
was,
I'm really happy to hear you say that.
yeah, it's been incredible. Anything else on your list there?
Those are the big ones.
Those are the big
We could
ones.
get down into minutia, but those are the really big ones.
Hmm. I
Well, you
love
gave
that.
us a lot to think about, and our listeners, I'm sure, for anybody that's contemplating jumping, it's like you can jump anytime, but if you put your life jacket on first, you're
Hmm.
more likely to survive. So I like those
That's
tips
a
and
great analogy
tidbits.
too. Like you
Yeah.
really have to be prepared before you take that jump.
Hmm.
Yep, absolutely. I think, we've already kind of discussed this, but with Mandy and I, there was a lot of luck involved, but the luck only lasts so long. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that we've been able to put some things into place, and business has grown, and we're thriving, not just surviving. So
Right.
um, I think that is excellent advice that you've given us, and a lot to think about for sure.
Yeah.
You know what? There's my one of the women who I just look so up to, Sarah Blakely. She's the founder of Spanx. And
Okay.
one of the things that she said in her
Yeah.
master class is always be iterating, always be creating, always be changing. Don't stick with the status quo. Don't get stale. Always be evolving. And I think that that's a really great piece of advice too.
Yeah, I think if you are not learning daily and continuing to grow, there's no way, like, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? And as is your
Right.
business. And I don't necessarily just mean growing in profits and sales and all the things, but like if you are not pouring into your business and pouring into your knowledge and being
And into you.
innovative and creative and really in tune with the market that you're in, then you're not on the incline, you're going to be on the decline,
That's
because
right.
you have everything is evolving. And even saying that out loud sounds exhausting, but kind of on purpose. Like, I want people to know that staying in the corporate world is optional, right? Like, you don't have to live that way if you don't want to. If you do, great, kudos for you. But if you don't, there is a way out. But I didn't say it was an easy way out. I didn't say
Right.
that it was going to be, we're not always going to be working on the beach and making it
Right.
look glamorous like Mandy
That's
does
right.
sometimes. But at the same time, it can be what you want it to be, but it doesn't come without the hard work,
That's
and
right.
the plan at the very beginning, I think, is the biggest takeaway that I took from you is like, if you don't know what you're doing, figure that out first.
Yeah. Well, I know people, I think sometimes they think they do know what they're doing until they figure out that they don't know what they do. And sometimes it'll take them a year to figure out, I don't know what I'm doing.
But
And
that's why
they've
they need the
wasted a year.
mentor. That's
Hmm.
why there's more advice to
Right.
be heard for sure. Because, I think I know what I'm doing all the time until it slaps me in the face that I'm wrong or
Right.
that I
And
don't
me
know, and then I
too.
have to
Me
learn.
too. I've been
So
doing this for 15 years and I'm quite seasoned and I still am learning daily things that I didn't know. And I'm happy to share that
yeah.
on to the people coming up behind me.
Yeah, I like that
Absolutely.
though. Keep yourself a student first, a teacher second. That's big
Hmm.
advice.
Yeah, I love that. I will give my advice on starting a business real quick because whatever one of you was saying triggered it for me. Is also when you start your business, do not compare yourself to 5 years from now somebody else, right? I would go to these networking meetings and they would talk about all this, like what they have going on, and I'm like,
Why am
I
I
don't.
not doing that?
Yeah, why am I not that successful? And it's like, well, girl, you just started. But
Right.
also, they have had so much more time. And so I reframed it pretty quickly of like, imagine what I'm going to be doing in 2 years or in three
Hmm.
years or in 5 years. And I could have never imagined that it could be where it is now then.
Right.
But it's use the people that you meet in these meetings and the successful people and use them as inspiration,
Yeah, let them
and
set your
not
goalpost.
competition. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
They
not.
are they are setting that goalpost of where you can be when you are at the point that they are, not
Mhm.
comparative to where you are right now.
Yeah.
Comparison, man, it's a thief of joy every time.
It is.
It is. And I think that if I think smart women will gravitate to somebody that is doing something similar to you, but they're two steps ahead of you, right? Somebody
Hmm.
who's been there, done that, and they're two steps ahead of you in their journey. Human nature is to not want to be left behind, right? So if you insert yourself into a community where people are doing some things that you aspire to be doing, naturally they're going to help you come up to that.
Yeah. It makes me think of racing. Like you're familiar with the concept of drafting, right?
Yes.
Like they
Hmm.
like literally get in the right in behind
Right.
somebody
They
else
just
and it just
hold right
carries
on.
them right on through and it makes it so much easier and they're going so much faster. I don't even I don't even know anything about racing. I don't know where that came from.
It was a good analogy. It was a great analogy. It really was.
We put out there on a TikTok and asked people if you left corporate and started your own business, what kind of business did you start? And it's just inspiring to me. I love to see when people go and start their own thing, right? They have that confidence to go and do it and seemingly successfully, which I love. And so I'm going to read a couple of those. And then, Angel, I want you to tell us some of the ones that you see out there where those people who probably were in their corporate job going,
Mhm.
my skill set, I couldn't start a business with this, or I don't have
Right.
$50,000 to start that brick and mortar or whatever it is. And they figured
No,
out something
I've
that's
got
just really
two really,
cool.
really good. I have two really, really good things that just popped straight into my head.
Perfect. All right. So this person started a massage therapy place, which I think is so great. You do not have to work for another, you know what I mean? Like for a chain.
Right.
You can go start your own
Yeah,
thing.
go do it yourself.
Yeah, you're totally have this. This person didn't leave corporate completely, but started a travel agency to eventually leave once I build up enough business. And what I want to tell
That's
her,
smart.
yeah, what I want to tell her is just go because that's what I had to do and it was awesome. But yeah, like a travel agency, so fun. Can
Yeah.
totally do that.
Yeah.
Especially if your passion is to travel. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
do it.
I mean, if you are like the best thing in my life is planning my next trip, like how much would you like to plan someone else? Amazing.
No, I
Um,
want to go with them. When I
yeah.
plan your trip, I would like to be there, please.
Travel agents can do that. We have a
I know.
travel agent, Deb Brenneman, and she goes on people's trips, not all of them, but
She's
she
been
will
on my
go.
trips. She's been
Yeah.
on my group trips.
But it's so important to have somebody there. Like in our corporate job, we
Yeah.
were not travel agents, but we were
Yeah, we
in
were.
charge. Yeah. But like we were in charge of getting people's plane itineraries, like all lined up and figuring out who was going to ride together and, getting
And then
them on the
physically
right
getting
bus.
them to and from. Yeah.
Yes. We were in charge of getting them to and from everywhere, who they were rooming with, all of that stuff. But what Deb does is she will like go and meet your group at the hotel to make sure that everything happens, and she will, if there's flight delays, she will be the person coordinating everything. And she ends up getting a lot more. First of all, she goes on the trips. She says it's not vacation, it's work, because you
It
are
is.
Yeah.
working, right? But she gets to see the beautiful places, which is awesome. And then she makes relationships with all of these people on the trips, and now they book her to do their family vacations and maybe their destination wedding or whatever it is. And I just love that so much. So maybe in
Yeah,
my
brilliant.
maybe my
Write
next
that down
business will
for,
be travel
I know, I was
agent.
like, write that down for our next
Yeah.
venture.
This person says they started a 3D printing company.
Hmm.
I love that. I asked them, "Ooh, what's the coolest thing that you've ever 3D printed?" And they didn't
They said
respond.
no.
I want to
No.
know though, because that's so fun. Like the 3D printing is still new enough that like I haven't done it.
It's
Yeah.
So
so
I mean, they're doing
fascinating.
it with organs on Grey's Anatomy, so you
I
never
know.
know.
So it must be real. Yeah. Um,
If Meredith Grey can do it, anybody can do it, right?
yes, that's true. Digital marketing, paid social, Google, all that stuff. We can
Totally
relate.
relate.
I never left corporate, but I got laid off during COVID and I started a t-shirt business, and it's not doing so well for me anymore. So now I'm back in the workforce and now in t-shirt debt.
Boo.
Ooh.
So wait, but we've seen that, right? That's what we've talked about. So this person probably didn't have a plan, didn't understand who their client was that they were selling to. They were
Mm-hmm.
kind of a short order kitchen, right? Taking any money that they could
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
COVID. And or maybe they fell into that. I'm an entrepreneur now. I don't have to do it. I don't have to have a structured schedule. Maybe they didn't have a community, and now they hit burnout, frustration, and they're in debt, and
Yeah,
they're
and their
back at
client
work.
probably shifted too, because when you think about the crazy things we were buying and spending money on during COVID,
Right.
like
Yeah.
the market has shifted since then. The world kind of reverted. I want to say it reverted back. It did not. It reverted forward in a new weirdness, but
Mhm.
everything has kind of changed. So I think that's part of, being victim to not evolving with your business.
Right. Right.
Mhm. More marketing. We love our marketing girlies. Consulting. They said, I work in the cannabis industry. I stepped down as director last year. I now consult these businesses on best practices from the comfort of my home, which I love.
Nice.
And I
Uh-huh.
love women in
Jealous.
cannabis because that is a man-led business.
Hmm.
So I love my cannabis girlies. That's awesome. So that was some that we got from TikTok, but Angel,
Yeah, but
networking so much and just being such a builder up of the women around you. What are some of the coolest businesses that you've seen people make for
Yeah.
themselves?
There's a cool business. This person is not in the region that we live in, but in Nashville. And during the pandemic, so this person worked in live concert sound engineering, right? So
Mhm.
the sound panels that run the live concerts, and of course the entire entertainment industry and the live entertainment industry just shut completely down. And so this
yeah.
person shifted to an online model where because she was in the entertainment industry and she was a talented person and a songwriter and all of those things, she started creating like silly custom birthday songs, right? Silly custom birthday songs for people that could go on Fiverr and some of those other platforms and customize and purchase. And so that kind of evolved into her being able to start mentoring other people who were educated in sound engineering, songwriting, or they were up and coming musicians in the Nashville area who didn't have any money, didn't know what they didn't know in the business. And she's been able to help them get brand packages together and get demo tapes together on a shoestring, right? And put together the whole brand package for these up and coming musicians so that she can help be an advocate for them as they kind of
That's so
launch onto
cool.
the scene. So, even those creative fun jobs are somebody's job. And I
Yeah,
always think
they
that's a
took
lot of
their
fun.
passion and they made it into a job, and they're helping people who can't afford to have a big executive team doing something like this for them to
Right.
launch their career. Like most artists have a shoestring
Hmm.
budget, so I'm sure that she stays busy.
Her client is a client that doesn't have a lot of money, right? So she has to have a model of volume,
Hmm.
um, so that she
Yes.
has sustainability and other lines of income that are coming in for her so that she can pour into these kids that are just new on the scene and up and coming.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you have this job during COVID, because I'm sure this has happened to a lot of people where they got downsized and laid off, and you're like, I do something that can only be done here through
Yeah,
this
right,
type of company. I can't go buy all of that equipment and take it ever, you know what I mean? Like it just there's nowhere to do that anymore.
right.
So it's really cool to figure out what that thing that you're going to be passionate about is, that you can go and make it a business. I don't think that people understand that you can literally make anything a business.
Yeah, I used to tell my kids that when they were little, like, you know what? Somebody has to draw these cartoons we're watching. You know what I mean? That's somebody's job. You can do that for
Hmm.
your own business. And
Hmm.
so you're right. Anything can be and everything is a business.
Hmm. Yeah.
The other one is she is here local in our St. Louis region, and I don't want to fangirl too much because it's embarrassing. But we've had her speak at the Become conference for us. Her name's Tamara Keefe, and she owns Clementine's Naughty and Nice Ice Creamery.
Hmm.
And she left the corporate world, and she had really built herself up into a high executive position within the corporate world. And she's come and spoken to us about how she was so frustrated because she was a woman that was being micromanaged by mediocre men. And she just couldn't take it anymore. And she took the leap out of corporate, but she took the leap hard and she had a plan. But she took the leap and she sold her home. She cashed in her 401k. Like she poured everything into her business plan. And now she operates, I don't know, 12 or 13 retail locations. Not only is she producing a product, which is ice cream, and it's boozy ice cream. How fun is that? She
Ooh.
also has to deal with operating retail locations. I just received an email that she has been awarded the Small Business Person of the Year for the entire state of Missouri. So she'll be
Wow.
representing the state of Missouri in Washington, D.C. as the Small Business Person of the Year. And this is a person who less than 10 years ago took a leap away from corporate to lean into her passion, which was I found joy as a child when my family would make homemade ice cream and people would come over and eat it.
Hmm.
And now look at where she is.
That's
Amazing.
precious. I love
Hmm.
it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And I'm just glad that people are figuring this out like we did, and that hopefully people will take from this conversation here, that it's completely possible, but make sure you have a plan, because
Right.
it can get a little sticky
Hmm.
if
It
you
can,
don't.
and it will, and it
Hmm.
will. Some challenge is gonna throw up that is unexpected, that is gonna throw you completely off your game, and there isn't anybody there that can solve that problem except for you.
Hmm. I agree. You've talked a lot about having a business mentor, and um, and having that group that supports you and helps build you up.
Mhm.
So I would love for you to tell us about Freya, or is it Freya?
Yeah, Freya.
Freya. So I would
Mhm.
like to for you to explain to us Freya, and how it works in the class that's starting in May, so that if anybody is like, I've been looking for the thing to invest in to take my business to the next level
Yeah, I'm
this
such a
year.
big fan.
Hmm.
Part of my own business evolution, past creating the community and creating that space of um, sharing best practices, self-development, networking, giving back to community is really taking some of my expertise and wisdom and putting together courses, digital courses, higher level retreats where people can really get the education that they're looking for. The stuff that I should have had opted into at the very
Hmm.
beginning, and that I'm such an advocate for other people opting into. But the Freya course is a 6-month business mentorship and accountability program. It is a program where our participants are hand placed with business mentors that will help them for 6 months work through their challenges, work through a competent business plan, whatever their struggle is. If they're trying to launch a product, if they're trying to get past a plateau, if they're just starting out and they need to have a business plan, it is customized to those people in small group cohorts, and just push through. Like we're gonna do the work, we're gonna pump it out, and in 6 months you're gonna have a competent plan. You're gonna be set up for success. So I'm very excited about that. That program speaks for itself. Last year we had a member go through who realized that after several years in business, she was selling to the wrong person, right? So it's the conversation about not understanding who your client is.
Yeah.
When she shifted all of her messaging to the proper client, she saw a 97% increase in her revenue in the month of July.
Wow.
97%.
Those 97%, like,
Mhm.
right? So that's a woman who was floundering and frustrated and ready to throw in the towel. And she just didn't know that she needed to flip that one piece. And now she's excelling. Now she's booked business across the nation. She's been able to, scale past her hometown. So big results coming out of that program. I'm a big fan.
I love it. I visited last year to one of the classes or one of the group meetings and taught them some Canva. And I loved, because I was there for the entire meeting, I loved that the mentors helped set the goals, right? And then held them accountable to
Absolutely.
the goals that they set last time. That in itself, even if there wasn't anybody in the room who was a successful business owner who could really help me figure out my business and going forward, even just an accountability partner like that in itself, and having the whole group there and the mentors and everybody cheering for you and getting so excited when you did that thing that you needed to push through to the next level. It felt good there. And every single person who has been through this program is just like, my business has never grown more in 6 months, in a year, than it did when I did this. And
Hell
so
yeah. That's the whole game, right? It's about understanding how to work the system, how to get that business set up, and how to execute it properly.
I love it. I love it. So thank you for sharing that with us.
As soon as we get this cohort filled, we'll start a waiting list for the next one, because like I said, there's so much value not only in being with somebody that's 2 or 3 steps ahead of you that can help you put together that plan, but also having your feet held to the fire, so that if you are in that entrepreneurial space and you have gone to happy hour or the winery brunch and then you're hungover the next day, you're gonna have to report that to somebody that you didn't get your shit done.
Yeah.
Right? And nobody wants to be in that position.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to face their peers that are all excited and growing their business and say, I
didn't do it.
I didn't do it.
Well, and also, I mean, I always tell me, I'm like, I'm never getting promoted again. Like we talked about that I don't care that I'm never getting a promotion again, because it's all about the wins of this business. And guess what? When you own the business, you also, when things go well, you get paid more, like
That's right.
Yeah.
Or
Like
you get to work from the beach. That's a win, right?
Yes,
Or you
it
get
is.
to take Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday off, right?
Yep.
Big wins come in all different forms.
It does. But what I think would be great about this group for a lot of people is that when you're in it by yourself, right? Before I had my team, all
Yeah.
of these, I mean, there were people in my life who would be excited that I had a big win. But like you said, that you're driven by words of affirmation, right? If you own
Right.
your own thing and there's no partner and there's no, people within the business, it's like, who's going to celebrate you? And these women, like I said, when I went and visited that cohort, they celebrated the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And that You need that as a solopreneur and a business owner because there's no one who's like, here's your raise, here's your new
Right.
job title. It's like, no, we just have to celebrate those small wins and we have to find people around us who want to do that with us.
Yeah, you can feel like you're on an island as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, right? Because um, who can relate to that? You know, your spouse or your mate might not be able to relate, your neighbor or your sister. They
Yeah, it's
don't they
isolating.
don't understand. It's isolating, right?
Mhm.
And I've even had girlfriends go, "Oh, what are you doing? Go get a job at Target." You know? And because they don't understand. They don't understand the
Yeah.
passion and the drive behind it. They don't understand the hustle. They don't understand what it takes, the determination and the tenacity it takes to build the business.
Mhm.
And there's so much value in being surrounded by people who do understand what you're going through.
Mhm.
Yep. Everybody needs their circle for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. This has been an incredible conversation. I have loved it very much because while we, and we'll continue to say this, while we're not trying to get everyone to quit corporate, it sounds
No, not
sometimes
at
like we
all.
are. Yeah, we are not, because there is room to improve your corporate situation if you're not
Hmm.
all the way happy. And we talk about that too. But if you have been just needing to get out and you have this business within you that you need to get out there, I think that your advice is going to be a huge first step for them, to think about
I appreciate that.
and hopefully to get them talking to people who will be helpful in that.
Yeah.
I
Find a
already
mentor first.
yeah, I already knew, like I had things set up for my business before I started networking. But I go to places or like to networking meetings and people are like, I'm a job seeker, or I'm in between stuff.
Right.
I need some inspiration. And I'm
Mhm.
telling you, go do that. If you need the inspiration, go do that. Go meet people. I recommend if you have that in you and you need that, networking is about building relationships, not
Right.
building a business. So you
Yeah.
don't have to have a business to go do that. But go and figure it out and start to meet the people who can be on your board of directors and who can help you through this because I think that while most of the things that you said were so important that like you really have to do them, the community thing is one of the most important. And so I
Yep.
really recommend it.
And I think that if you're staying in corporate, it will help you develop your leadership skills. You know, if you're surrounded by entrepreneurs who are building businesses, they're building something from zero, right? They're building
Mhm.
something from nothing. Then it's a good way to hone your leadership skills to be around someone like that.
No, I love that. And
Yep.
if you're a woman in the St. Louis, or kind of outskirts of Missouri area, and Illinois, if you want to come to a meeting, I recommend Little Black Book highly. What you've built is incredible.
Thank
So
you.
we will leave all the information about that, how you can find
Please
meetings
do.
in your
And,
area. Hmm.
we're also looking for qualified teams of women leaders in other areas.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I strongly believe in what we've been able to build and the value system that we hold and the vibe that we have. And I think that every community should have a support like this group.
Yes. So I saw the other day on our analytics that we have a huge listenership in Dallas. And
I'm
so if
sure.
you're in Dallas and you were like, I need to start a networking group that has this culture of women helping women and supporting and all of that, you have to talk to Angel
Yeah, let's
because
have a conversation.
yeah, we need to build it out everywhere. It's not fair that just
Yeah.
the people of Missouri and Illinois are are benefiting from this culture of networking. So that's huge. Well,
Well, thank you so much, Angel, for
No,
coming
thank
on
you
and sharing
guys.
your wisdom. Yeah, I very much enjoyed getting to know your history and your expertise, and I appreciate the vulnerability in sharing the mistakes that you've made along the way to
Yes.
hopefully let people learn lessons through yours rather than experiencing it themselves.
Right. Well, I appreciate your time and the lengthy chat that we've had, and I really wish women the very best, but please, please, please have a plan. Please have a
Yes.
plan.
Yes.
It's great advice. All right. Thank you. We'll see you guys all next week.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.